Laramie and Cheyenne. And then I had another brother, Roscoe, who was an attorney up in Lander. 2 streams met on their property. We could fish for trout for supper right in the backyard. And there was grand camping up in the Wind Rivers and up in the Black Hills. Well, still, there are so many other places to love and to feel at home in. And for me, one of those places is always going to be the Southwest. Now, Douglas is the one who introduced me to New Mexico and Arizona when he was working for the Santa Fe at Winslow. He shared a house there with a brakeman named Tooker and an Englishman. Henry was his name. Douglas found Henry drunk under a water tank and brought him home to be their cook. They were grand fellows, they really were, but Douglas would go off for days at a time with the construction gang and leave me with those 2 for chaperones. But Tooker was so full of stories about Ralph Waldo Emerson, of all people. And then Henry would sing endlessly about them fair deceiving eyes when he was drunk, which was all of the time. So I made friends in the Mexican village. Oh, they were fine, warm people. The musicians were something special. There was a string trio, 2 section hands and a bartender. And then there was a singer from Veracruz. Being with him was like living in some classic age. His golden skin, eyes with their tragic gleam. Oh, well, though, it wasn't just the people. That whole country filled me with delight. The red sand of the desert with its dull green rabbit brush and sage. We saw the Grand Canyon. We went hunting for cliff dwellings along the Little Colorado. And I suppose I can probably admit it to you now. I did come away with some rather illegal souvenirs from Walnut Canyon near Flagstaff. Pieces of pops. Tan, rich ones, and black and red ones with complex geometric patterns. They were made by artists. Here too, you see, they were making something beautiful for everyday use. This time, out of river bottom clay. I found in them that same desire that is the source of all creativity. Beautiful little cities of stone that sleep in the canyon walls, that creativity is implicit. Pale little houses nestled close to one another, perched on top of each other. Some stillness and silence flows. What a contrast with cities of today where people spend their lives trying to keep up appearances, where social prestige and propriety, that's God. Ugliness, pettiness, and heartlessness, that is modern society. Oh, I just deplore this cheap, modern fashion for everything that is new and conventional and easy. Oh, you young ones say, well, I'm sure not going to work the way the old man did. So toss out old ways of doing things that might require just a little bit of effort. They chop down grand old cottonwoods, and then they plant soft maple because it's the thing. Or they pull up the old board sidewalks and pour cement. Cement. We are going to be paved from Atlantic to Pacific. New things are always ugly. New clothes are always ugly. A prima donna would never wear a new gown upon the stage. She wears it first about her apartment until it shapes itself to her figure. Or, well, if she doesn't have the time, she hires an understudy to wear it. Oh, I suppose I know how that sounds, but the point is, though, that beauty lies in the associations we have with our clothing and our home and our work. That's why I have such a feeling for Europe, because there they have the good sense to appreciate individuality, to cherish the old treasures, not just toss them out as soon as the style changes. Some of the best words I ever had from an older writer were from Sarah Orne Jewett when she told me one time, "Of course, one day you will write about your own country. But in the meantime, get all you can. You have to know the world so well before you can know the parish." Well, I never needed much encouragement to travel anyway, but those words were enough to set me packing my bags. That first trip in 1902, I went with my dear friend Isabel McClung. Well, we surely were not in our first youth. I was 28. But I doubt if any giddy girls ever reveled in a more joyous time. We did everything the law allowed, probably a few things it didn't. We made pilgrimages to all the old shrines. The places in England that fascinated me most were remnants of Roman civilization. Oh, those poor dear Latins trying so desperately to inject a little of the light and color of a warm Mediterranean land into cold gray England. Glorious splash of color in the gray English drip. I was glad to sail for France. We took the night boat across the channel, and in the morning the sun was dazzling. Our eyes ached to the glare of white stone, yellow sand. A little boy was flying his kite up there on the terrace. A red and green kite. It was the most magnificent kite I've ever seen, and it went famously up and up, and my heart went just as far. Everywhere in France I encountered more than I had expected. I found a kind of internal peace, along with the sadness that Latin culture in Europe is doomed. The war, of course. The war and its aftermath have only confirmed that feeling and that belief. But at any rate, after that trip, I was determined to write about Latin culture in the New World and to explore how our lives have been made richer by the Latins and their culture and traditions and manners. And their religion too. Because even though I was born a Baptist and confirmed an Episcopalian, the Catholic Church, that colorful Catholic Church, is the one I really wanted to dig into. Which I guess gives me the excuse to tell you about my latest book. Well, after all, that's what writers do. It's called Death Comes for the Archbishop. And I suppose in a way you could say it's a love story. Love of God for man and man for God. Love the land.